they're desperate. People are desperate. They get a rent increase that they can't possibly sustain. They want to be in Pasadena. Their families have lived in Pasadena, for generations, and they're asking, what's going on here? Why can't you stop it? I mean, me. They don't point to you, they point to me.
They point to you.
Let's keep it 100. Let's keep it 100. 100.
James Farr here, live from Pasadena Media Studios. Get ready for more piercing and provocative. The Conversation Live starts now. And welcome to another episode of The Conversation Live. The Conversation Live focuses on social justice, restorative justice, inclusion, and equality. Coming up today, we're going to have a critical and possibly uncomfortable conversation. Pasadena's own Robin Salzer is in the seat. We're going to catch up with Robin, see what life is like after retirement. Also, I'm going to ask him that question that I know you all want to know. Will he or won't he? It's election season right here locally. Robin knows all 5 of the mayoral candidates. I want to get his take on who he thinks they are. We also want to talk with Robin on what type of leadership is needed in the mayor's seat in order to move Pasadena forward. And then next week, our city council will be voting on a moratorium about rent control. Is it too late? I'll ask Robin that too as well. But coming up first, we want to talk to Robin a little bit more about what it was like running a business for 37 years, maybe a little bit back into his philanthropy endeavors, feeding homeless, empowering young people. Jared, let's take a look. I want to jog Robin's memory, and then we'll catch up with him on the other side.
Homer Dills told me, if you can't smell the smoke from a mile away, just keep driving, because it ain't going to be any good.
Because of the economy, the all-you-can-eat restaurants are very popular right now, but sometimes all-you-can-eat's not a bargain. There has to be quality with it, and that's exactly what I found at Robin's in Pasadena. Robin's Wood Fire Barbecue and Grill in Pasadena specializes in wood smoked barbecue. Now, the wood used is hickory with mesquite coals. No gas in this process, just hickory that gives the meat that distinctive hickory and mesquite taste. Open the door to Robin's Smoker. You'll find a row of chicken and big, fat, spicy link sausages. Down below, slabs of pork ribs, beef ribs, and tender baby back ribs, all being slowly smoked for 2.5 hours. No flame reaches the meat, just the hickory and mesquite smoke. The young ones seem to enjoy digging into those ribs too, and yes, it is okay to lick your fingers and get your face smeared with barbecue sauce. Sometimes the kids don't want barbecue but prefer pizza. Hey, not a problem again. It's not all you can eat, but no kid should leave hungry. Eating barbecue ribs can get really messy. My advice, wear something red so when you drop the sauce on you, nobody will notice it.
Robin, dig in on your barbecue for now. It's Peter Dills on the patio at Robin's Wood Fire Barbecue in Pasadena.
And welcome back. Robin, thank you so much for taking time out of your schedule. Well, you got a lot of time on your hands now. You slowed down a little bit.
I'm a blessed man. Mm-hmm. I mean, I've been able to have my dream come true by owning a restaurant in Pasadena for 38 years. And it was a step back into time watching Elmer Dills, because Elmer Dills, Pasadena's own Elmer Dills, put me on the map. I was on his show on KABC 4 times. The first time, he hit us for a loop. I mean, we ran out of food at 7 o'clock, we were closing the doors. And Elmer wasn't very happy about that, but we learned. But it's been a wonderful journey. I've been blessed to be able to do it on my terms. And I had a great staff, just a wonderful opportunity. And, I've lived in Pasadena more than half my life.
I mean, you shared with me when we were talking off camera about, employing people. And kind of like, because if you've ever visited Robin's, it almost seemed like you weren't in Pasadena in terms of the diversity of staff and just who you saw working there. Why was it important to you to empower folks from all walks of life? We won't get into the fruitcake story, but why was that important to you to have such a diverse staff?
Because we hired people. I mean, we didn't have a quota system. We hired, people who had a great smile, and even if they didn't have experience, but if they had that just intangible that just kind of hit me the right way, we hired them. Mm-hmm. And I think that we probably at one time had one of the most diverse restaurants in Pasadena, and I'm proud of it.
I mean, because you came from pretty humble beginnings.
You know, my parents, you know, I've said this often, still live in the same 1,000 square foot home in Milwaukee. And I worked in a foundry. I worked 3 jobs to buy my dream restaurant. I was the youngest franchise owner in the history of the International House of Pancakes at age 24. Just turned 24. And, you know, you learn the hard way. You learn from, you know, but I've never lost those values. And when you grow up in the Midwest, it's a working class area. You learn to tough it out.
I heard that you were a labor organizer, a striker. I mean, there's a past about Robin we may not know a whole lot about, but...
Well, you know, rumor has it.
I said I heard.
That when I worked for Master Lock Company and was on strike twice, that I was a union organizer, and I was part of that campaign, and we got what we wanted. So I'm proud of that too. It's given me a great balance. I've been able to reap a fair amount of success over the last 41 years of self-employment, but I go back to my roots, and it's given me an opportunity to look at life differently, because I've been on both sides of the spectrum, and it's really given me a wide range of viewpoints.
You held, or had, when you had the store open, a very high employee retention rate. Why did people stay with you so long?
I think because we're like a family, and we get sometimes mad at each other, and we maybe yell at each other in private, and then we shake hands and go back out. I put a basketball court out in the back, and when we had a couple waiters that were mad at each other, and I said, "Here, take it out on the court." So they worked it off one-on-one and came back in. And but I think, going back to what you said about the diversity, we hired people from any place and every place, and we hired people. And I think if you treat people well and you treat them like a family, I mean, years ago when I was single, I'd have quite a few of them come to my house for Thanksgiving, and I didn't want to be alone, and they didn't want to be alone. So it's just something that it just happened. There's no plan.
One of the things that resonated with me as just an observer from 38,000 feet, kind of looking down, is your servant leadership style. I mean, and how you really put people first, and the people who work with you. I would come in a restaurant many times, see you with an apron on, washing dishes, and I'm like, it's a packed dining room. Like, the guy can hire a dishwasher, but your team needed you to help in that moment. And so I kind of want to transition, and because we're having an election coming up next year.
Right.
You know all 5 of the candidates personally. You know them well.
I do.
You've been here quite some long time. So Jared, let's go ahead and roll in this second segment. Let's take a look at who the candidates are, and we'll talk with Robin. And we're going to go candidate by candidate. We're going to break it down.
Let's go to local briefs. Check this out. She said Elizabeth Warren. I just killed the whole conversation for me.
October 18, 2019. Councilmember Victor Gordo, Marketing Executive Major Williams, and local businessman Jason Hardin are in the race to run against Mayor Terry Tornek in the 2020 election. Under Tornek, who was elected in 2015, the city has seen minimum wage increase, the ending of the 710 freeway extension, and a tax increase that saved the PUSD from a county takeover. Hardin, a local businessman, lost to Tornek in 2015 with less than 1% of the vote. Gordo, endorsed by former Mayor Bill Bogart, has been critical of developers and the current housing crisis. Williams believes that the current mindset is in need of change. The mayoral election is slated to take place March 3rd, 2020.
On that clip, you didn't see Jackie included in that package because at that time she was formerly in an exploratory phase, which she still is. But Robin, I want to start with Jackie first. I mean, not only did you run against Jackie several years ago in District 1 for the council seat, and you were defeated by Jackie. What kind of leader, what can you share with us about Jackie, and what kind of leadership do you think she would provide for the city?
Well, I think Jackie was a good leader for District 1, and she put together her 2020 vision, which worked very well with John Muir High School, and she worked very well with the youth of Pasadena. We were all neophytes. Every candidate that was running was not an elected official, so we were all going to learn by the seat of our pants, one way or the other. So I think she did a pretty good job.
You think Pasadena is ready for its first ever woman from a citywide election? Because let's not forget Loretta from many years ago. Is Pasadena ready for Jackie Robinson?
Well, I think they were ready 25 years ago when my wife ran, and she was the first woman to run in the elected
board of director model.
Right. For the first open election, and she came in a very close runoff, or a very close general election to Chris Holden and Bill Bogard. Are we due for our first woman? I think we're due for the best candidate.
Best candidate. Let's go ahead, Jared. Let's pull up Jason Harden. You know Jason.
I know Jason.
You've seen Jason in the community and the work that he's done. Is Jason ready for leadership here in the city?
I like Jason. I think his documentary on Pasadena Altadena was off the charts great. His heart is in the right place. I would like to see Jason get a little more experience. I know he was on the commission last year. I'd like to see him get more involved in Pasadena. There are places for Jason Harden in Pasadena, but I think that he needs a little more experience.
Okay. Victor Gordo.
I like Victor Gordo. I've known Victor for some time. I think Victor has extraordinary communication skills. He has kind of a story like mine. He had rather humble beginnings, middle class beginnings, and he's reached a certain modicum of success. Was in charge of the RBLC for many years. He's a consensus builder. But the one thing I respect about Victor Gordo is he'll have a conversation with you. He will call you back. And even if you disagree, and if you don't really hear what you want to hear, we'll save that for the next conversation. So I like Victor.
Let's see, Major Williams.
Major Williams is another bright rising star. Major, he plays basketball with us on Saturday mornings. He's a tremendous basketball player. He's got a lot of energy. He's got movie star looks. He's a great guy. There is a place for Major Williams in Pasadena, but I would like to see him run for city council. Not sure what district he lives in, but I would support him in any district that he runs in, because I see the energy, I see the vision, but again, unfortunately for some of the candidates, Pasadena is the type of city that's going to ask, what have you done to improve the quality of lives in Pasadena recently?
I've heard him because I've attended some of the events and I've attended other candidates' events. I mean, he's talking about a new brand of leadership.
Right. And you know what? That's great, but I think, let's see how he does in the election.
Sure.
But I would encourage him to stay involved, to get involved on a commission, maybe support one of the runoff candidates if he's not in the runoff, and to be a part of Pasadena. And then the next time around, who knows? Who knows?
Our current mayor and incumbent, Terry Tornick.
I'm going to be very frank with you.
Please.
I'm not a fan of Terry Tornick.
Why?
And for a multitude of reasons. He lost the respect for the small business community. When you have a private meeting with two restaurateurs, preeminent restaurateurs in Pasadena, and one of them pleads with him to, please consider putting, the minimum wage on the state timeline that Jerry Brown enacted. And the response is, well, you guys are in a tough line of work, and some of you guys are going to have to tough it out or find a new line of work. That's not what a mayor does. When I asked him at a group meeting in city council chambers about the process that we were promised, about being part of an ad hoc subcommittee to flesh out the Pasadena minimum wage ordinance before it went to Ed Tech and then ultimately onto the city council, I was told by the mayor that, well, I'm not here to talk about the process or any process. Let's go on to the next question. To me, that shows more of a duplicitous mayor and somebody who can't have a conversation, they can't build a consensus. I'm not a fan of Mayor Terry Tornick.
But in Mayor Tornick's defense, isn't it fair to say you guys are in a tough business? Tighten up your bootstraps and make the adjustments?
We do that every day. We've done it every day, but that's something we don't want to hear. I'd rather have a...
but you don't want to hear it, but is it practical? I mean,
If I'm the mayor and I'm talking to you, I'd say, hey, this is a runaway train. This thing's been coming, Chicago, Seattle, Los Angeles. I can't stop this, but there's other battles we can fight. And I would reconvene maybe monthly and to see where we can build a dialogue, where we can work together. And when we're in a city that has more restaurants, first, second in a number of restaurants per capita in any city in the United States, you don't discount the restaurant industry. We're a very vital, part of the people coming to Pasadena.
I mean, but some on the other side of that discussion, because the March to 15 or ahead of the state schedule was a very contentious issue here in the city, along with a few other things that we'll touch on. But some have said on the other side, these are a bunch of rich men, restaurateurs, who are crying over a few cents. Is that the case? Because I've never ran a restaurant. You have. I mean, what's the nuts and bolts of that? I mean, am I going to be paying $17 for a burrito next time I go to the restaurant?
20. No, but what we were asking for was just to go on the state timeline, because every city surrounding us is on the state timeline except for us. And what happens is that, what's a business going to do? Whether it's a restaurant, a dry cleaner, a car wash, the first thing they're going to do is cut labor. So you may make more money per hour. You may go up from $14.25 to $15 an hour, working 40 hours a week, but maybe that second week on the payroll at $15 an hour, now you're working 32 hours a week. So then there's a net loss. And so without opening up a whole new can of worms, because that's already been talked about and settled, I can honestly say that none of my colleagues, the restaurant industry, they weren't against the $15 an hour. All we wanted was to be on a fair playing field with the rest of the state.
With the rest of the state. Let me check in. You're watching The Conversation Live. The Conversation Live focuses on social justice, restorative justice, inclusion, and equality. My guest today is Robin Salzer. Robin is a former small business owner, as well as a former city commissioner, and arguably one of the most liked and well-respected community members here in our city for nearly 4 decades. We're just having a conversation about the mayoral race, a few other topics. I really wanted to kind of peel back into this housing issue right
Sure.
now. And you see it from both sides.
Right.
I mean, as both a landlord as well as having employees that actually lived in this housing. So next week, the City Council is considering a moratorium similar to what the City of LA has done, and there's been some discussion about having it retroactively to provide some protection for those who are receiving 60-day eviction notices. Now, this has been an ongoing crisis for the last 24 months here in the city. Mayor Tornick said he didn't think rent control was the answer. Several other council members don't believe. Victor Gordo, John Kennedy, at least Hampton has said he thought it was worth a discussion. Are they too late to this party? Has the damage been done?
Well, I don't know if I'd say the damage has been done, and are they too late to the party? I don't want to see Pasadena make the same mistake they made with the minimum wage, in my viewpoint.
What do you mean by that?
Well, the state, Gavin Newsom signed a rent control bill, and it caps it at 5% annually, and then
plus the index.
And the index.
Yeah.
I don't know what Pasadena can do more. I believe you should have a conversation about it. You should definitely have a conversation about it, but I would be very careful about following what Eric Garcetti is doing in Los Angeles. Maybe what they should do is, and again, do it rather than talk about it as Mayor Tornick did with the minimum wage, is put a subcommittee, an ad hoc committee of property owners, landlords, and we have some very well-respected landlords in Pasadena, and with community leaders, clergy, and craft a list of items that they can take to Ed Tech or wherever they're going to flesh this out.
But I think, respectfully, Robin, right now people need relief. Like right now, like they're hemorrhaging, they're hurting, and when you look at trauma, when you look at things that kind of will show up. The mom, dad working shifts and different jobs and, wondering how their kid's going to get from one school to the next. I mean, all these things are real, like right now situations. I don't think people necessarily have a long runway for relief on, they need something like right now. So my question for you is, if the election weren't next year, do you think our current council would be even entertaining this discussion? Because it seems like a complete pivot from where they were months and years ago?
Probably not, because this is going to be probably one of the number one topics that they bring up, during the course of the debates. So probably not, but that's okay. That's good, because again, it's part of the conversation. I mean, if it is a problem, we need to discuss it. But I think that Pasadena is a smart city. I mean, we have JPL, we have Caltech, we have Parsons Engineering, we have Idea Lab. We're smart people. If we can't figure it out here, nobody's going to figure it out for us. So I think that, yes, time is of the essence, but, maybe we can do something, creative, something different. We don't always have to follow what Los Angeles does. Let the council members discuss it. I do believe you should have input, but sometimes when they put in rules like this, they hurt the people who they're supposed to help. They end up being hurt.
Well, I mean, I think the best example of that is once AB 392 was signed at a landlord conference convention, if you will, right here in Pasadena earlier this month. A lawyer told landlords, issue the 60-day notices. Make sure you get that clock started now as opposed to later. And that's where we saw scores of people show up at City Council last week calling for this. So I don't know if rent control is the ultimate answer. I don't know if rent stabilization is a different or better solution, or capping or freezing. But what I do know is when you're out there on the ground, people are hurting. Like, it is a real thing. This idea of, you've heard this before, the Pasadena way. What does that mean to you?
Pasadena way is that, as I said, we can figure it out ourselves. I think that we're a city for each other. I mean, when you have a city that has more nonprofits than any city in the United States, and that's over 1,200 nonprofits on a city that has approximately 145,000 people, that's like for every 121 residents we have living here, we have a nonprofit, because we're a city that gives a damn about each other. We have more, private schools per capita than any city in the United States because of some challenges that the PUSD has, but they're working at it. And they're in a tough situation too, but they're working at it against all odds and against a lot of public pushback. And again, we have more restaurants per capita, which makes the pie wedges a lot smaller. When I started here, there was about 260 restaurants. Now we have over 600 restaurants. So the competition's there, and you can't just say for every restaurant going out, there's another one coming in. It's not that easy when you have a family and you're supporting your family and paying in education. But the Pasadena way always was that we'll get it done. We'll make it work, and everybody benefits from it.
Do you think that Pasadena way is inclusive of everybody, or does that just is it just exclusive for a certain group of people?
It can be more inclusive. I think that, there's probably flaws in everything. But, we're Pasadena. We can do it better. And I think the Pasadena way should encompass every resident of Pasadena. Every resident should have a voice. You shouldn't be told, tough it out or find a new line of work. You should be able to be, we'll help you find a new line of work. Okay.
Now the question is, if I got one email or one inbox or one text message when I told folks that we're going to have you on here, is the looming question is, will you run for mayor? Will there be a sixth candidate? We got an announcement today.
The $64,000 question? I just retired after 41 years of self-employment, working every holiday, almost every holiday, working almost every weekend. And the election that I'm going to run this cycle is for Father of the Year and Husband of the Year. But I will be actively involved in supporting the candidate that I think will make the best difference from Pasadena.
You got any predictions right now? I'm not asking, or are you ready to endorse somebody? You have any predictions if the election were tomorrow?
I'm not a gambler.
Okay.
You'll never see me.
You're a business owner. You got to have some risk tolerance anyway.
Yeah, coming to Pasadena.
Opening a business here.
That was
right?
a good risk. It was a good risk. I don't know about today, but in 1982 it was a wonderful risk. And again, I met my family, my wife here, and I've been able to prosper here and just be a part of the fabric, which I really, really hold dear to my heart. But if I were to make a prediction, I would probably say it would be a runoff between Terry Tornick and Victor Gordo. And
why do you say that?
I think because if Jackie gets in, it'll make it a little more challenging because she is a former city council member, and she is a woman, to be the only woman running. And this could be what you say, the year of a woman. But And she has credibility because she was on the council for 8 years.
Do you think Major Williams can activate the over 27,000 folks that may support him?
Hey, he has a chance. I mean,
Okay.
he has a chance. I mean, I like Major Williams, as I said earlier. He has a future. He's smart, he's visionary, he has all the assets that you need to be a leader in Pasadena, but he just doesn't have, again, people are going to say, what have you done, for us in Pasadena? And I truly believe, I've always said this all my life, leadership is defined not by what you say you're going to do. Leadership is defined by what you've done. And if you analyze what somebody's done in the past, that's pretty indicative of the type of leader they'll be in the future.
All right, Robin, I got to park it right there. Thank you. I appreciate you taking time for me. Jared, let's go ahead and cue up this last thing, because I said today we were talking about servant leadership. Let's roll in this last package and we'll sign off on the other side.
I think a nice shift in mindset in the way that we approach leadership is to see ourselves in service of our people. The same way that we treat customer service when it comes to external customers and clients, that we treat our employees the same way. They're not subordinates to simply just boss around and tell them what to do, but as a leader or as an organization, it's like I am in service of creating the best environment for you possible, like what will allow you to thrive in your position and have a great experience. Even when it comes to feedback, I ask for feedback as a leader in service of you. How can I show up better for you to create a better experience so that you can be awesome here? I think when we approach leadership that way as leaders and as an organization, it shows that we care and it has impact.
Until we have another opportunity to speak with you, as always, agape. The Conversation Live is brought to you by